Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, the podcast where we discuss tips, advice, and personal stories on different topics related to wellness. You may remember our webinar series last school year, Wellness Wednesday, and we're excited to bring it back this year in a podcast format. We will again be doing episodes throughout the school year, quarterly. You can always refer back to previous episodes via PGCPS Mental Health website. I am pleased to introduce our host and PGCPS Mental Health Coordinator, Mrs. Emily Pasco. Welcome, Ms. Pasco.
Thank you so much, Dr. Holly. So as we all adjust to the new school year, many students, parents, teachers, and school staff might be having some difficulty adjusting to the changes in the routine. So today, we will be lucky enough to speak with some of our own PGCPS educators, mental health professionals, and even students to explore some strategies to make this transition as seamless and as stress-free as possible. So we hope you all stay tuned with us and enjoy all of the tips and the information shared today. Thank you.
Yes, this will be good.
So before we dive into our discussion today, I'd like to take a few minutes to just acknowledge this beautiful space that we're in. We are here at Maya Angelou French Immersions School's Eagle's Nest, or Calming Space. So I'm here with members of the team. We have Dr. Chiza, the principal, Miss Hasselrig Opara, school psychologist, Dr. Stubblefield, professional school counselor, and Miss Young, mental health clinician. Thank you all so much for hosting us in this amazing space.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, can you walk us through, the process of creating this incredible space and what that was like for your team?
So the reason why we started this space and created this space is because our students were surveyed, and our principal came in last year, and they talked to him about it, and he has meetings with them. And so they said they wanted a space and they wanted a calming space. So we started that space, and we started creating the space, and they started talking about it and what they wanted, and we developed it, and they came in and they helped as well. And so that's how this space got started. That's how we, walk the process. And so, of course, it has to start with administration first.
Absolutely, and it's so powerful, I'm sure, for students to have felt heard and that their input was really valuable in this process.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
So how are you seeing students and staff members utilize this space throughout the day?
So thank you. I thank you for hosting us today and being here. Since the beginning of the Eagle's Nest, really our students right now, they can utilize the space during lunchtime. They get a chance to select to come here and really just find a place for them to, just to come, to unwind. They can also use that as place, in the early first thing in the morning, as those who come early. And then we plan on in the future also using it in the afternoon. For middle school specifically, we are trying something new this year. We're calling it the SEL Moments. A few minutes before lunch, where scholars get a chance to choose between, the social piece where they get a chance to be outside for 10 minutes or come here for the emotional side, just kind of addressing, because we know a lot of scholars may not want to be in the cafeteria with everybody, but they may want to read a book in a calming space. Really giving them that time, and as well as the learning piece for those who want to kind of get caught up in work, they can stay in the classroom. So we are figuring out all different ways, but right now, it's like the morning, the lunchtime, and then the afternoon. And of course, throughout the day as well, if a scholar is in need of being here, they can talk to the counselor. They can definitely come here as well. So it's their space, as I said. It's their space. It came out of them wanting something that's different, that's unique. And as soon as they walk through here, they all say, we want all of our classroom to look like this. And I told the parents and the PTS, and I say, hey, our scholars have asked for this, and why not? We can make 2 or 3 more spaces like this, and that'll be really, really impactful for them. As far as teachers, right now we're learning the space for some meetings. For some restorative meetings, for some meetings that require, calm, and really being zen. So we're using this space for that. and as well to a goal in the future to create something similar for staff as well.
Well, that's great. That's great. I heard you mention the PTA. Can you kind of explain? I know I'm sure this took a lot of different people in the community. Can you talk a little bit about the PTA involvement and any other people who maybe contributed to this space?
Sure. Can I jump in on that one?
Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So we, the first thing, like Dr. Stubblefield said, we can't really move forward without the support of admin. So, you know, if we want a space like this, we definitely needed the support of our admin and of Dr. Chiza and the academic dean were fully on board, ready to go. And that's the catalyst to moving forward. And then when we looked at this space, it was a classroom before, and we wanted to make it like really dynamic, so we needed to increase our resources. And the way we were able to do that was to call on the PTSA. We have a really amazing PTSA here, and we were able to say, hey, we need some parents, and we need your support in these different ways. So parents showed up. We had over 150 volunteer hours from parents, from students. We also needed some money. You know, we couldn't do it for free, right? So, of course, we tried to find all the thrifty ways we could do different things, but we needed some money. And so we reached out to our community. So we had community businesses who donated paint and donated, money for different things, and as well as gifts in kind. And then we had teachers who donated, resources from their classrooms because they wanted to see this space, be really powerful for the children. And then we also wrote grants, and then we used initiatives like Donors Choose, where we were fortunate to be picked up by another company who triple matched our resources on 3 separate occasions. And then we, reached out to other businesses for additional support, like with the wall, for example.
Yeah, adding to that, fundraiser is really big for schools. So some of the fundraiser money also went towards purchasing different items here in the Eagle's Nest. The biggest thing for us really was, and like the vision that we had as a very rich school, with a rich community, wonderful parent participation and involvement. We really want to be a stamp. We really want to be a model in what is possible for scholars, what is possible for schools when all the stakeholders come together for the benefit of scholars. So, and I told the team that for my day one last year as a first year principal, and I said, we will do whatever it takes for us, of course, Dean wasn't looking that far to see how, like, having the Eagle's Nest as a first big activity or big initiative, but it was like whatever we have to do to ensure that we are the model, what is possible, right? And not just like, we're just creating a space, but our wellness team here, they have, everything is aligned with the standards, that, everything's aligned in supporting it. And as an IB school, our goal this year is now to see how we can kind of combine and connect like the IB learner profiles and attributes of learning with SEL as a combination so that we can see it all the way across. So we are really moving, and we're excited for this place. We're excited for what it's going to do for scholars in other places, other schools in our district.
That's great. And when you talk about, SEL or social emotional learning, it's so important to tie in all of the different things that entails. You talked about the social piece, the regulation piece for students, and I like how you described this place as you wanted it to be dynamic, and standing in here, that's the main word I would use to describe it. It truly is dynamic with different reading nooks, sensory things, visually very appealing. I can tell that just so much thought and resources were put into this. So it's really amazing to see, and I have no doubt that it'll become somewhat of a blueprint for other schools. That being said, are there any tips that you would give any school communities who are interested in doing something like this in their buildings?
So I would say just plan, right, and talk to your students about what they want. Oftentimes as adults, we think we know what students want, and it's best to talk to them and plan ahead and get together with all your resources, use as many resources as you can. As we said before, we wrote grants, we, got money from our PTSA, excuse me, and we got money from funds and other resources and from our principal with fundraisers and that kind of thing. So it's important to plan, plan, and plan. This was a big undertaking, but it was fun. There was blood, sweat, and tears, but we had fun doing it. And putting it together and seeing the amazing things that we did do, it's really, marvelous just to see. And our students are so excited. There's not a day that doesn't go by that they're always asking me, Dr. Stubblefield, when are we going down? When are we going down? And so I remind them that we just started, 3 weeks ago. And so we are going to get started very, very soon because we are excited. We're just as excited as they are because I just love to see them, come in and be able to calm down and whatever it is that it takes to help them to be the best that they can be.
That regulation is so key.
Absolutely.
No learning can happen if a student is dysregulated.
Absolutely.
So it's
I
really
agree.
amazing that you've been able to provide them with that opportunity. And happy to hear they're very eager to use this space.
And some of them have a true investment in the space because they also participated in putting it together.
Okay. So students were involved in the creation. I know you said the
Absolutely.
brainstorming, but in the
Yes.
hands-on as
Yes.
well, you're saying. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, on that note, I was wondering if we could perhaps speak to a couple of students as to how they're enjoying the space and how they've been able to use it and the value that they see in it.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have two students here from Maya Angelou French Immersion School. Thank you so much. Chloe is an 8th grader here, and Amari is in 7th grade. So the main topic today is transitioning back to school. So I was wondering if you guys could tell me a little bit about how this space has helped you in your transition back to school this year, and also anything last year that stood out to you about this space and how it's benefited you.
So this year, the Eagles Nest, during the SCL thing like they were talking about, the SCL has helped us come down here to this Eagle Nest, witness it more than we have last year since it was during creation last year. And we just use it for calm. We stay in here to just chill if we want to be in here away from the other students from being, we stay in here with teachers, as Miss Young, Madam Opara, and Dr. Stubblefield. And we just read books and probably play games sometimes. And yeah.
That's great. Yeah, because I know, as much as we love school, it can be an overwhelming place at times, right? So this truly has been a calm space for you to be able to go to and kind of decompress a little bit.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you, Amari. Chloe, anything you wanted to add?
I feel like the SEL time is very helpful for students that also need just extra help with work. They just want to come here to calm down, clear their mind. They want to do their work here instead of going to a teacher. Also, we help each other out with the work also. And being in here is very calming. You could talk with your friends. You could just have fun, really.
That's great. And, we talk about SEL and social emotional learning, and a big piece of that is self-awareness.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible that you guys are given the opportunity to, take stock and be aware of when, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed or overstimulated. Let me go and utilize this space that we can all benefit from. So thank you guys. Anything else you wanted to add about, the space or how planning it went or anything like that we should know?
Yeah, not really.
Okay. I have Miss Young here as well. So we're in a pretty large space. And just to acknowledge, many of our schools in Prince George's County don't have maybe a space that's exactly like this. I was wondering if you had any tips for maybe scaling it down a little bit or how we might be able to incorporate it into classrooms or parents at home for their kids.
Sure. So what you're really talking about is creating a micro space. I mean, this is a large space. And we do know that sometimes, even here at Mafi, where there wasn't an opportunity to come, maybe this year, but to create that same type of space, a very similar space in a classroom setting or at home, I do have a few tips and tricks for parents and for teachers as well. So the idea of the calming space first is to be separate and apart from high intensity or high stimulating activity. It's really a space to be separate from that and to bring what the students have already talked about is a calming, but also a focus. And so a calming space too should be separate and apart from the workspace. So think about when we were in COVID and the kids were maybe in their room virtually. So their room became their classroom and the place where they did homework, and it was also their personal space. But if there is an opportunity to create a personal separate space for a calming space, that is ideal. And then also the aesthetics, so the way that it looks, it's beautiful here, and it did take the blood, sweat, and tears, and students helped, and you can see their marks everywhere. And so aesthetically, physically, a comfortable space, textiles, as we talked about before, maybe something that's smooth, a smooth chair, a smooth carpet, or maybe even something with ridges, depending on even if your child is diagnosed with either ADHD or some of those challenges with inattentiveness or hyperactivity, where they have something texturally that they can feel to keep them a little bit more calm. And then also lighting, a softer, maybe a little bit more subdued lighting. And then lastly, the calming space is actually a space for engagement. So what I like to do, I've actually created a little calming space in my office, kind of a replica of here in the Eagle's Nest, but that space really is for me to be able to engage a student on reflection of behavior, pre-calming space and post-calming space. So if I could just give a few tips, and then hopefully the audience will be able to take this with them. I like to leave students with a think method, and many teachers may actually know about the think method. Think, before you came in here, T, are the thoughts that you had about your behavior true? Is there truth to a behavior that might not have been H, helpful? Or maybe what are some behaviors that are helpful? I, what do you want to be inspired by while you're here in the calming space? Or what can I do as your support to help you in the calming space? N, what is necessary for you to be able to get back to that space of calm and not too overstimulated, but regulated? And then K, be kind to yourself. And so I think that kind of encompasses a calming space as big as the Eagle's Nest or as intimate as a classroom or even a room at home.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I love that because it builds in productivity to it as well. You're learning a skill, you're encouraging that self-awareness and that self-reflection, and also reiterating, everybody makes mistakes. Yeah. We're all learning. We're all working on our own regulation, even us as adults. So I think that's really powerful, and I'm sure some of those tips will help students create their own little space, maybe a corner of your bedroom or somewhere away from the hustle and bustle of student life, and also maybe teachers in their classrooms as well. So thank you for that, Ms. Young.
You're welcome. Make it cool. Make it your own.
Yeah, whatever. And it's really, that's the cool thing about it. It can be so personal, right?
Exactly.
And really creating your own space. So thank you. Okay, now let's get into our main topic. So transitioning from the carefree days of summer back into the school routine can be difficult for students across all age groups. So some of the challenges that come with this might include reacquainting themselves with new habits, getting back into a structured routine, getting that necessary sleep, and studying habits back into place. Also adjusting to new schools, often different classrooms and expectations that come along with that, and new people as well. So joining me today, we have two veteran educators in Prince George's County Public Schools. We have Miss Deborah Perhatch, autism academic research teacher, and Miss Nicole Bonham, an individualized education program facilitator, both at Largo High School and both with over 20 years of experience in the field of education. So thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
And then we also have Miss Hasselring Opara, a school psychologist in Prince George's County Public Schools and works at both the elementary and the high school level. So thank you guys so much for your valuable expertise. So I was wondering if we could start out by defining what is a transition. What are we talking about when we say that students are going through a transition period?
Sure. So transitions are simply moving from one situation to another. And students experience transition really all throughout the day. We have smaller transitions, such as going from home to school. And then once we're in school, you might move from class to class. You might move from one activity to another. You move again from school to home for a longer weekend, maybe a extended vacation. There's all sorts of transitions, and eventually as they move through, they're going to change grade levels, they're going to move into a different school, they will graduate and move on into a career or college.
Yeah, so really it ranges from the everyday transitions that students have and then those big ones, right, that we think of, kindergarten, sixth grade, ninth grade, those big years. So really, really wide range of different transitions that our students go through. I was wondering, can we talk a little bit about what are some of the typical reactions to some of those transitions, either big or small?
So some of the typical reactions can present as children feeling some type of fear. It may be avoidance. It may be frustration. It may present as some type of distraction. Children may often complain about not feeling well to avoid, going to school. And so parents just have to try to help children understand the emotions, work it out, put things in the proper perspective so that children are able to express their emotions and be able to attend school and really get over whatever is bothering them at the time.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, and I heard some of it does present as those somatic symptoms or those physical symptoms that we can sometimes overlook,
Yes.
but are really part of a student adjusting to a new routine and that discomfort that comes with that. Thank you. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen for students towards the beginning of the year with that big transition from summer to school?
So some of the biggest challenge I've seen is kids getting, especially on a high school level, children getting ready to be in a new building. The building might be bigger than what they're used to. The classes might be bigger. Student size and population is bigger. They have to adjust to learning things like how to read a schedule. When they get to high school level, we've got to read the A-day schedule and the B-day schedule and understand the difference between the two. What lunch are they going to have? Are they going to have first lunch, second lunch? How does that fit into the schedule? Are they going to have a full year class? Is this a semester class? So just trying to understand the schedule alone is probably one of the biggest obstacles they have to overcome coming into the building. But then they have that fear of being on a different level. They're on a high school level now. They know that different things are expected of them, growth and maturity, trying to fit in. Where do I fit in this big building among these new people here? And so just things like that are a real big challenge for the kids.
I see that. And as you were talking about the schedules, I found myself getting overwhelmed. And I'm an adult, so I can just imagine how challenging it must be, especially also going from an environment where you were like the oldest. You were the person or in the group that was kind of running the show in the sense, and then you go and you have to transition then to being kind of the younger person in the school building. I imagine that's hard too.
And then there are all kind of things like, in our building, just navigating through the building. There's now an upstairs, a downstairs. There's an even hallway, a side hallway, an odd hallway. And how do they navigate getting around? And then trying not to be afraid to ask people for help.
Yes.
So those are some big things.
I was thinking of one of the transitions from elementary school to middle school is having access to lockers. And how do I do the locker combination?
Yes.
Oh, am I going to get it right? Never mind. I just won't put my books in there at all.
Yes.
Just carry them with you the whole day.
So one of the things we did with our middle schooler, when she was in middle school, we bought a lock so we could practice at home.
Okay.
Yes.
And then take that one off the plate.
Yeah, and then there's a whole challenge of, am I at an early school, am I at a late school on the high school level? And so getting them to adjust to bedtimes, knowing when to go to bed, getting enough rest in the morning, getting into the routine of getting up. You have to talk to the kids about things like, okay, an hour before bed, you've got to turn off all the electronics, getting that blue light out of their way so that they can get some sleep. Those are all challenges for our kids.
Yes, and that's so critical for sleep, right? Because
And
we know that blue light replicates daylight and can confuse
Yes.
the circadian rhythm. So that's
Yes.
definitely,
Yes.
you said an hour before? Or?
Yeah, I always tell them an hour before,
Okay.
turn it off, get it out. When my own kids were going through school and growing up, I used to make them take everything out the room.
Just out of the room
Yes.
completely. Yeah, the
Yes.
temptation has
Yes.
got to be gone.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So what are some, we talked about some of the practical tips with the lock and practicing at home and the removing a phone or devices prior to going to sleep. What are some of the other practical tips that you can give to students or parents about adjusting to?
So we talk to parents about simple things like setting routines for their kids, talking about a homework time, a bedtime, helping them reflect on the day at hand, preparing and previewing for the day ahead, using simple things like visuals to help them prepare. You can use something as simple as a sticky note to kind of give the kids some reminders about how to navigate through the next day, taking multi-step task at a time. And just, I know I always talk to kids about setting out their stuff at night. So, they're not late in the morning. Sometimes you have kids say, oh, well, I didn't bring my lunch because I didn't have time to pack it. And so I talk to them about setting up the day before at night, packing your bag at night, making sure you have all of your materials with you in your book bag, make sure you set your clothes out, make sure you packed your lunch so you can just get up, grab, and go, and you're on time and you feel more focused and less stressed in the morning. And those are skills that will stay with them for life. Those are lifelong skills that we're teaching them. To this day, I still set out my clothes, the night before. And so they're just skills that we start to help the kids build that will carry through with them for life.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about, reflecting on the day and thinking about, how can I change this for tomorrow? Or if you're a parent, having that prompt for your student, what went well today? What do you think we can do differently tomorrow? How can we make things easier
Yes.
for you as you're going through this tough time?
Yes, and just helping them understand their own emotions at this time is very crucial. Helping them learn how to express their emotions in a proper way will help them transition a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that advocacy too, right? Recognizing emotions and then saying, who are the people at school that you feel comfortable with, that you can go to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed or confused or anxious or any of these things that come with transitioning to a new environment.
Yes.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I was hearing from the suggestions that you were giving is the reminder to ask open-ended questions at the end of the day. So the closed-ended questions would be, how was your day, or like a yes/no response. So was your day good? Yes or no. And that just kind of seals it that there's nothing else to talk about, as
Right.
opposed to tell me what you learned today in math. Tell me what you learned today, or tell me who was kind to you today. Were you kind to anyone today? What did that look like for you? How did that feel for you? Like to get the conversation
Right.
going in discussion about the day. And then another thing is I find that a lot of times, particularly with younger children, that they mimic the enthusiasm that you have. So if you sound excited about school and learning, and I know as a parent, sometimes it might be difficult because you're thinking, oh, we're doing homework again, or maybe you have some kind of feeling about going back to school yourself. But if you can channel your enthusiasm about it, a lot of times the children feel that and are more encouraged and excited about being there too.
Thank you. Yeah, and I love that those tips, can be used for any people of any age, really. Those open-ended questions just do get you more information and are more likely to yield further discussions. That's a great tip that we often don't think about.
Absolutely. One last tip I just wanted to share is building competence and building confidence in what they've been able to do. We had a freshman come in at the beginning of this year and say, when I came into high school, I was afraid, and it's so big, and I didn't know if I would find my classes. I thought I might get lost. But then I remembered, wait a minute, middle school felt just like this to me, and I made it, and I did it. And so acknowledging the, competence and how far you've gone and the progression of all these things you've learned to do is very helpful.
And that building of resiliency, right? And tapping into their previous successes and your own accomplishments, and that, people can do hard things. It might take a little bit of work, and you might need a little bit of help, but we can do this, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I love that. That's a great tip. So if all these tips, for whatever reason, don't work, and parents are still noticing that their child's struggling, or students are feeling like they're struggling and their own toolbox, so we'll say, isn't exactly working, what are some next steps that can be done?
I think one of the most important things is for everyone to recognize that these situations can have little bumps in the road. So we might have transportation concerns at the beginning of the year, or schedule changes, or it is going to be a challenge getting used to different peers or teachers, and that's okay. So reminding, your child to be resilient and understand that change will happen. And then, beyond that, really acknowledging when they're being flexible with this change is a really great way to build that resilience that we've been talking about. So if all of that is happening and your child is still expressing what seems like extreme concern, and this is lasting for more than the first week or two, it might be time to really sit down and talk and have your child identify their feelings and exactly what is happening. And then you might want to reach out to the school for a little bit of support. Maybe the guidance counselor, the classroom teacher, a case manager, administration. Reach out to somebody and see what we can do to find a solution to what's happening.
And I like that you mentioned a variety of professionals in the building, because I think a big piece of it is, who does that child feel or that student feel the most comfortable with? Like, who could we tap into to help? And if there's not somebody, then there are people who are who care and who we can tap into as well and build that relationship.
Yeah. And that's part of the transition we teach them. They have to know who's in the building, who to go to for what, and then how to advocate for themselves. And so because they're on the high school level, they're going to be outside of our four walls of protection soon. We try to teach them to start advocating from day one and knowing who to contact. So, and then if that doesn't work, involving the parent, bringing the parent in on the issue. But we always like to try to teach them self-advocacy first.
Yeah, and having a plan
Yes.
set can be comforting. Right? Like, hopefully everything goes well, but if not, I have this plan, I have
Yes.
this person.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, I had a student today when I walked in. She was upset. I wasn't in my office, but she knew that she needed to talk to me about something. So she came to my office and met me today. And she knew, we called her parents on the phone, and her dad was like, well, thank you for doing the right thing and going to Miss Bonham and letting her know that, you were upset. And so she knew the person to contact about the issue. So that was good.
Yeah, that's great that you were able to give her that, empower her with those steps.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. Do we, any other tips or insights about transition that we haven't touched on?
I would just say it's a process, from year to year. Each year they're going to transition to some other level and have to deal with other things. So transition is going to be something that they're doing from year to year. And as they go through life, it's going to be from day to day in life. And so it's skills that we want to instill in the students that they can carry on once they leave us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to think that they will one day leave us, but yeah, it's great that you all are doing the work that you do to help students make those adjustments. And I know that the tips that you've shared today will help a lot of parents and their scholars. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I am so excited to turn to one of our own Prince George's County Public School students to speak with us. So with us today for the last piece of our session is Miss Jordan Lamb, a senior at Fairmont Heights High School. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
So I was wondering, Jordan, if you could tell us just, I guess, how the year's been so far, how have things been going?
Senior year is not bad. Just adjusting to not only being a high school student, but a college student in a part-time job. It has been a little stressful, but I think it's getting better now. Just time management and remembering what I have to do and using my calendar. Communicating when I am a bit stressed is definitely helping.
That's great. And that is a lot, you said. So you're a college student as well.
I'm dually enrolled at PGCC.
Okay. So you have high school, college, and a job. So that is a lot. But I hear you tapping into a lot of your tools and advocating for yourself. So that's great. I like that you recognized, it's been a little bit better. It started off a little bit challenging, but I think for the most part, every day will be a little bit better. Yeah. So with some exceptions, some days being kind of tougher than others. But I'm glad to hear that it's going okay so far. Thank you. What other transitions have been challenging for you in your life?
Mostly probably just transitioning from each grade level, especially from entering high school during quarantine was probably the worst for me. Because I already get scared about talking to new people. So entering not having anyone to talk to, just looking at a screen was probably the hardest. But once I got to 10th grade, it got a lot better. I got out of my head about a lot. So
yeah, that was certainly hard for a lot of our students and for teachers as well, and all school staff, adjusting from that fully in person, and suddenly we're all pretty isolated and learning from screens, which we're not used to. So definitely, I'm sorry that was your experience, and thank you for touching on that, because I think that will be very validating for a lot of students to hear that they weren't the only one struggling with that. So thank you. And I'm happy to hear that it's gone better since being back in person. So I'm wondering, what was helpful to you during that time, or as you're struggling with, or as you're working through some of the transitions that you're going through today?
Well, probably my mom. She's probably one of my biggest helpers. My friends, I do have a therapist, so she helps. She's super sweet. I think tapping into your support system, like you said earlier, really does help, but also recognizing when you're not okay and realizing that it's okay to not be okay. I think where a lot of us go wrong, where we don't like to talk about it, and then we like to isolate ourselves. I'm not good on isolation. It really affects me. So just having that comfort person, even if it's not someone like your mom or your dad, just having someone really does help in the end.
Yeah, knowing who your key people are.
Right.
Yeah, that's great that it's your mom and your therapist as well. These can be tremendous resources to people. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for any other students that they might find helpful in. You mentioned time management, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of time management things or other skills have been helpful for you as you're adjusting from kind of more carefree summer to back into the routine of busy school year?
Probably my calendar, my calendar and my Remind app. Just writing everything down. Like on my iPad, I have a widgets app that allows me to take a sticky note. So when I look at it, I see everything I need to do for the week. Especially with applying for colleges right now, writing everything in my notebook to let me know when college deadlines are, when I need to get my essay done, when I need to get my letter of recommendations in. Just writing things down. If you aren't such a visual person, maybe having someone remind you, someone close to you, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Yeah, because I'm really forgetful, so I had to write everything down.
I get that. I do the same thing. It took me quite a while to learn, so it's great you're getting it in high school already. And I think that that's great having a person to remind you. I think it can be a great thing to have someone who's going through something similar and to check in with about, how's your college application going? Did you remember this deadline? Or having someone who's going through experiencing the same thing as you to kind of be partners so you're not in it alone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And to close us out, we're just going to do a little segment that we're going to call Dear Younger Me. So, Jordan, what is one thing you would tell your younger self about a previous transition period and why?
I'd probably tell myself that it's going to get better. When you are down and out, sometimes you kind of second guess yourself. You tell yourself it's not going to get better. But looking at the light of things or how things could get better really does help. Not being so negative. Remembering who you are at heart really does help. Being positive. Not being so sad and in your head about everything was probably my biggest obstacle.
Yeah, and it can be hard when you kind of get into that thought pattern of thinking that it's not going to get better, or I'm the only one having trouble with this, or those really thoughts that are not helpful, right?
Yeah.
But it can be easy to get kind of stuck into that way of thinking, and it might take a little bit of extra effort to shift our mindset to more of that growth mindset, right?
Yeah, so like now when things go wrong, I just think about how they can get better instead of worse, because I know coming out of quarantine in 10th grade, my biggest issue was like, oh my gosh, I'm the only person going through it. So then I didn't want to go to school because I feel like no one understood. So just realizing everyone goes through issues. You're not alone. You're not the only person. Just some people are better at hiding it than you are. So
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help and to tap into your resources and your key people. And I just want to say thank you again so much to Jordan and to all of our guests today. As a reminder to anyone watching, please check out our previous Wellness Wednesday segments, along with other mental health resources that can be found on our PGCPS mental health webpage. So you can access it. The easiest way I do it is just go to the PGCPS website, type mental health in the search bar, and we'll come right up. And also remember that if you're concerned about how you or your scholar is transitioning back to school following the summer break or following any breaks or through anything challenging that they're experiencing, please contact the administrative team, your professional school counselor, or the mental health clinician at your child's school. So we hope that you found some of the information and tips that we shared today helpful, and we look forward to our next discussion in November. Stay well, PGCPS.